everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on prefixes and suffixes. And before we start, all right, so we said that we are doing grade 2 English lesson, right? And we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password. And then we're going to select the subject of English language arts, grade 2. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of prefixes and suffixes. All right, so we are doing our prefixes and suffixes, and this is a continuation of the previous lesson that we did, where we also did prefixes and suffixes, right? So now we're just going to continue, and then on our next lesson, we are also going to continue again on prefixes and suffixes, right? And it says our chapter is prefixes and suffixes. Our subject is English language arts, grade 2. And the lesson that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of prefixes and suffixes is to use the prefix pre, re, or let's say, pre, re, and miss. So we need to use the prefixes, which is pre, re, and we need to use miss. Right, so that is going to be our lesson for today under our chapter of prefixes and suffixes. Right, and before we start, right, we said, like, once again, this is a continuation of our previous lesson on prefixes and suffixes. And in our previous lesson, we basically did an introduction of our base words, where we said that the base word is a word that can stand on its own. And usually with the base word, you can then find you can add a word to the beginning of the base word, which will be a prefix, and you can have a word that you can add at the end of a base word, and that we call our suffix, right? And once we add a word to our base word, and then it means that the meaning of that word changes. But also keeping in mind the prefix as well as the suffix, they already have its own meaning. So the prefix has a specific meaning before even adding it to the base word. So once you add that word to the base word, then the meaning of the word changes. This is our second time that we're doing this lesson. Didn't we only did prefixes and suffixes yesterday? Or did we do it again before then also? Because I only remember that we did prefixes yesterday and we did it now today. Guys, what you don't understand is we have this is our lessons, right? And with the lessons that are set out, I cannot just teach you everything at once. I cannot teach you everything at once. I need to, for example, take two lessons per session and then I specifically teach that, or one per session and I teach you that, because that is how it is being set out. So even if it takes sometimes three sessions for us to finish, let's say one specific chapter, then that is how it is set out. So we only did it yesterday. Yesterday we did identify base words and determine the meaning of the word prefixes and prefix pre, re, and miss. Today we're doing use prefixes pre, re, and miss. And then I said in our next lesson we're going to be doing the suffix, which is going to be full as well as in the review. That is what we're going to do on Tuesday. So Monday we don't have class. You have Tuesday. You have English on a Tuesday. So can I continue? There's only supposed to be one. What is it only supposed to be? So you prefer that we must do the whole chapter in one session, like in one day? Are you saying that? Anyways, all right, so I'm going to continue because remember, there's also others. Guys, not everybody's at the same pace. Some of you might be at the way faster pace than the others, and you would be able to pick up something easily. And then you'll find others that is going to be taking a bit slower to pick up something. So if I were to finish all of these lessons in one session, one class, and then it means that the others are not going to understand. Most times, the same people are having a conversation which is disturbing the rest of the class, which means that you guys know what to do, but the others are not, because they don't know what to do. And every time we get new students, which means that they are then the ones that needs to also learn how to do this. So Once again, our chapter is prefixes and suffixes. Our subject is English Language Arts, grade 2. And the lessons that we are focusing on is going to be to use the prefix pre, re, and miss. All right, so we see that a prefix can be added to the beginning of a word. It changes the meaning of a word. And yesterday we made mention of a base word, and we said that the base word is a word that can stand on its own. And from a base word, right, this is not a word that can stand on its own. From the base word, we can then add a prefix to the base word, which means that we add that prefix to the beginning of the word, and then it will change the meaning of that word. And we can add a word to the end or at the end of that base word, which we call a suffix, right? And when it comes to prefixes and when it comes to suffixes, right, each prefix or each suffix, whether it is just letters, it has a specific meaning. And once it latches onto the base word and then the meaning of that word changes, it can either become negative or it can become positive depending on what the meaning of that word is, right? So, once again, a prefix can be added to the beginning of a word and it changes the meaning of the word. So, when it comes to prefixes, right, as well as suffixes, but now we're doing prefixes, I specifically mentioned that each prefix has a specific meaning, right? And once we add it to a base word, then we will see how the meaning of that word either changes. All right, so for example, if we look at we look at the word pre or the prefix pre. Pre means before, right? So pre means before, which means that if we look at an example, it says pre-made means that we made it before. All right. So we see that pre, it means before. And if we look at an example of the word pre that means before, then we can say pre-made. So pre-made, right? All right. So we say that pre means before, and and an example is pre-made, which means made before. So pre-made, it means be made before. Because remember our prefix is before, which is pre, right? And if you put that word pre with the word made, then it means that we made it before. All right, so we said we made it before, right? It's the same like we said with heat. And then we said with heat, if it's something is preheat, and then we can say it was heated before, right? Now, if we look at the next one, there we have the prefix re. And the prefix re means again. So the prefix re, it means again, right? And if we look at we look at the word, right, with the word re, it's like saying to do something, right? So doing something is like you are actively completing a task, right? You're doing something. But now if we add the word re to our word do, so redo, and then we can say that whatever I was busy with, I'm going to redo it. And it means that I'm going to do it again. So re then means again. It's like doing it again. Redo. Do it again. Then we have our prefix miss. So our prefix miss, it either means incorrectly or it means poorly. That is our prefix miss, either means incorrectly or it means poorly. So now we said that with a prefix, right, we need to add that word to our base word. We need to add it to our base word, and then it means that it changes then the meaning of that word. So here we have the word misread, right? Misread. And before we continue, right, to read, it means that you are reading something, comprehending something, right? But now you come to the word misread. So read, like we said, reading is where, it's just flowing. So we say that read or reading, it's like you're comprehending what you're reading. But now when we add the word miss to the word read, and if we look at the word miss that is added to the beginning of that word, then we can say misread means to read it incorrectly, right? It means that we are reading it, we're not reading it right? So we are misreading it. And now if we look at the sentence over here, right? it says that we need to look at the sentence and we are going to choose the correct word that goes with the sentence. So if we look at our sentence over here, right? It says Jesse sometimes hears when I whisper. We need to choose either between pre, re, or miss, and then we're gonna have to add it to basically this word over here. So we either have to add either pre, we need to add a re, or we need to add miss to that word, and then it's basically going to change the sentence. So it says here, Jesse sometimes hears me when I whisper. Do I say Jesse often pre hears me, re hears me, or miss hears me when I whisper? All right, so if we were to choose the correct one, right? So we need to either choose between pre, re, or miss. So it says Jesse sometimes, and yes, that is correct because Jesse sometimes miss hears me when I whisper. It means that she's hearing me incorrectly. She's not hearing me properly. She's hearing poorly, right? So when we mishear something, right, and then it means that we hear something incorrectly or we hear something poorly, right? That means mishear. All right. Now it says Brenna reads books many times. Do we say Brenna pre-reads books many times, read books many times, or misreads books anytime? All right, so it says Brenna. Do we say Brenna pre-reads books many times? Do we say Brenna rereads books many times, or Brenna? All right, so if we were to choose the correct one, we will say Brenna reads books, meaning that she's reading it again and again and again, even if the books are old, right? Because re means again. Then in January, all right. So if we look at the next one, it says in January, Megan paid for her summer trip. So we can say she prepaid for a summer trip. And if we look at those ones, right, all three are being used just in different orders, right? So we said then that JC sometimes mishears when I whisper, meaning that she is hearing something incorrectly or she's hearing it poorly. Brenner rereads books many times, meaning that he or she reads it again. And then we say in January, Megan prepaid for her summer trip, meaning that she paid before for her summer trip. So summer's only now, but she already paid in January. So which means that you prepaid because you paid before. And that is basically how we can then, for example, choose a word to then add to it. Right? So yes, well done. All right. So now we're going to A plus students.ca. Once we've gone to A plus students.ca, we're going to use the prefix pre, re, and miss, right? And we already went over what pre is. We already went over what re is, and we already went over what um miss means, right? All right. So now it says Justin doesn't listen closely, so he offends. Yes, the teacher. All right. So here it says Justin doesn't listen closely, so he often, we can even say he mishears the teacher because he does not listen. So he mishears it because he hears things incompletely, was not ready, right? And then we said pre means before, re means again. If Owen doesn't pass the test, he can. What must one do in order to rewrite this test? All right, so it says that if Owen doesn't pass the test, he can. And this is by us putting in our word re, and then we can say he can retake the test, meaning that he can take the test again because re means again, right? And then Mitch will make his bed if it isn't right the first time. If you want to do something again, then what do we add? Do we add pre, do we add re, or do we add miss? All right, so we will then say Mitch will remake his bed, remake his bed if it isn't right the first time. All right. So now let's go to our test. And this is where we are going to use the prefix, which is re, which is miss, and which is pre. So we need to use these words. All right, so it says Robin reads books many a times. So if someone reads books all the time, many a times, the same ones over and over, we say what? All right, so we can say Robin reads books many times, meaning that he is reading it again and again and again. All right, so it says Mr. Woodward. Do we say Mr. Woodward repaints his house every 5 years, or he pre-paints his house every 5 years? All right, so it says Mr. Woodward, right? Paints his house every 5 years. So Mr. Woodward paints. Do we say Mr. Woodward repaints his house every 5 minutes? Or paints his house every 5 years? All right, so we had to then select the sentence and either add pre, re, or miss to that word. And yeah, we said that repaints his house every year. All right. Okay, so it says in January, Megan, do we say Megan prepaid for her summer trip, or do we say in January, Megan mispaid for her summer trip? All right, so it says in January, Megan paid for a summer trip. If you paid in January for something that happens in June, and then we can say that you prepaid it, meaning that you paid before, right? They actually call it in advance, but you paid before. All right, yes, option one is correct. Well done. All right, and here it says Erica makes her lunches the night before she needs them. So do we say she pre-makes her lunches or she remakes her lunches? Which one is the correct one? All right. So if you basically make your lunches the night before, right, and then we can say that you pre make the lunches, because if you're making lunches the night before, you make something a week ago, you pack something a few days ago, right? And then we basically say that is before something, right? In this case, it would be before. It's like pre-making it before, um, yeah, either the tasting or the whatever comes, right? Okay, so pre is correct. I'll, do we say I'll misdo my hair or I'll redo my hair because the wind blew it around? All right, so we can then say I'll redo. Yes, redo, meaning that your hair wasn't maybe properly tied or something, and now your older sister comes to help or whatever, and we'll say, I'll redo. So we'll choose the second one, redo my hair because the wind blew it around. All right, so we can then say that I'll redo my hair because the wind blew it around. Yes, well done. Remember, if you're doing something again, it means that you are now saying that I'm redoing something or I'm retrying something, right? So the next one says Kenny pays for his train ticket at the start of each week. If Kenny pays for his ticket at the start of each week, right, and he needs to use that ticket for the rest of the week, do we say Kenny prepays for his ticket or mispays for his ticket? All right, and we can then say Kenny. Do we say Kenny prepays for his train ticket at the start of each week, or do we say Kenny mispays? Remember, pre means before, mis means incorrectly or poorly. All right, so we can then say that Kenny prepays, right? And remember, we said prepay is like where you pay before. Because if you're paying either a bus ticket in advance, you pay a train ticket in advance, you buy any ticket in advance that you're going to be using for the whole month or for the whole week, then it means that we are paying or purchasing that thing before, right? So we can say prepays because it means it pays before the week then starts. Yes, and re means you're paying for something again, or you're doing something again, or you're trying again. That is what re means. And pre means must not be for, right? It's like before something happens, let me pay it. Or I need to, it says, it would sometimes say, preheat the oven when you're baking. It means that you need to switch on the oven so long while you are busy mixing the flour and the ingredients, right, before throwing in the mixture and then putting it back in the oven. You first, even pre-made means that you made something before you are wearing it, or you made something before something happens to it. All right, so we will then say we either choosing between a re, which means again, or pre, which means before, and we can say I will. Will you repaint something to make it blue, or prepay something to make it blue? All right, yes. So which means that we said re means again, and then yes, we can say I will repaint my red chair to make it blue, which means that you're going to paint it again and then you're making it blue because you maybe don't like the color, right? Or the color has outdated. So now it means that you rather want a different color because it goes with whatever that you have put out now. Maybe sometimes some people change colors of bedding and everything, right? So yes, re is correct. All right. All right, so this is the end of our lesson, grade twos on prefixes and suffixes. Right, we did using the prefix pre, re, and miss, and then we had to find out what pre means, what miss means, and what re means. Pre means before, re means again, and miss means it's either incorrectly or it is poorly. Right, that is what the three um, prefixes mean. Right. All right. Goodbye, grade twos. Till next time.